His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the president of the current session of the Arab Summit, and his accompanying delegation arrived in the Russian capital, Moscow, for an official visit following the invitation of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, where he will hold official talks with the Russian President on the deep-rooted historical friendship relations between the two countries and the current regional and international developments. As the royal plane carrying His Majesty the King entered Russian airspace, it was accompanied by Russian Air Force warplanes, welcoming His Majesty. Upon arrival at the Vancouver International Airport, His Majesty the King was received by the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister and the Special Representative of the President for the Middle East, Mikhail Bogdanov, the Head of State Protocol, Igor Bogachev, and the Russian Ambassador to Bahrain, Alexei Skharofyev, and Bahrain's Ambassador to Russia, Ahmed Abdurrahman Al-Saati. Official reception protocols were held for His Majesty the King, where the musical band played the Bahraini and Russian anthems.
В честь вашего прибытия в столицу Российской Федерации, город-герой Москву, построен начальник почетного караула капитан Горшунов.
Upon arrival, His Majesty the King made a statement where he expressed thanks and gratitude to the Russian President for the invitation, hailing the close friendship relations between the two countries and the development and growth in various fields to achieve common goals and interests. His Majesty expressed pride in Russia's high status at the international level, led by its President, and its constructive role in maintaining international security and peace and supporting development and prosperity efforts in the world. His Majesty expressed appreciation for Russia's development and progress at the comprehensive economic and development levels, affirming the keenness on further strengthening Bahraini-Russian relations to serve common interests. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at his residence in the Russian capital, Moscow, the President of Tatarstan, Rustam Minikhanov, as part of His Majesty's official visit to Russia. His Majesty welcomed the President and reviewed with him the deep-rooted friendship relations and the opportunities to bolster cooperation, healing the bilateral relations and the progress achieved in various fields. For his part, the Tatar President congratulated His Majesty the King on the success of the Arab Summit hosted by Bahrain this month, expressing appreciation for His Majesty's keenness on developing relations with his country. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at his residence in the Russian capital, Moscow, the President of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, to greet His Majesty on the occasion of his official visit to Russia. His Majesty welcomed the Chechen President and hailed the development and growth of the strong bilateral relations, affirming Bahrain's keenness on bolstering cooperation with Chechnya in various vital fields to serve common interests. For his part, the President of Chechnya expressed pride in His Majesty's efforts to develop friendship relations and cooperation between the two countries. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received at his residence in the Russian capital, Moscow, Sheikh al-Islam, the Supreme Mufti, and Chairman of the Central Spiritual Administration of Muslims of Russia, His Eminence Talgat Safed Tajuddin, to greet His Majesty on the occasion of his official visit to Russia. During the reception, His Majesty the King welcomed His Eminence the Supreme Mufti and affirmed the deep-rooted friendship relations between the two countries and the continuous progress of cooperation at all levels, particularly the field of civilizational communication and cultural exchange. His Majesty noted the efforts of His Eminence the Supreme Mufti in promoting the values of coexistence, dialogue, moderation and authentic Islam concepts to reflect the true image of Islam, which calls for tolerance and rejects terrorism and extremism in all its forms. His Majesty expressed pride in the freedom Bahrain provides for practicing religious rights, affirming the global model it provided across history in brotherhood, coexistence and tolerance between all religions and sects, in light of its constant endeavour to establish the culture of rapprochement between cultures and civilizations. For his part, His Eminence the Supreme Mufti hailed His Majesty's role in serving the causes of Islam and Muslims and his humanitarian initiatives in bolstering the principles of tolerance and moderation, rejecting fanaticism and spreading peace and coexistence. The prosperous era of His Majesty the King witnessed a remarkable development in the Bahraini-Russian relations in accordance with common visions and principles in which the two countries agreed on in many files and issues. More in this report.
From Manama to Moscow, paths of constructive and positive communication were strengthened during the prosperous era of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, and the Bahraini-Russian relations witnessed continuous developments thanks to the keenness of His Majesty the King and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to common visions and principles between the two countries. The first visit of His Majesty the King to Russia was in 2008, then in 2014, the year that witnessed the two countries celebrating the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the bilateral relations, in addition to the visit of His Majesty the King in 2015 and 2016. The remarkable development in joint Bahraini-Russian relations is seen as the result of a number of visits made by His Majesty the King to Russia over the past few years, and these visits laid many of the basic foundations for joint cooperation. The directions and vision of His Majesty the King in strengthening alliances with friendly countries and diversifying relations with various active forces in the international community were reflected in the tireless steps of the government of the Kingdom of Bahrain, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, as the two countries witnessed many mutual visits that included senior officials, as well as the visit of His Royal Highness to Russia in 2014. As a culmination of these relations, and an emphasis on the shared keenness of the leadership of the two countries to develop them, many memorandums of understanding and cooperation were signed in various fields, confirming that the two countries are moving on one path to achieve the best interests for the two countries and their peoples.
Commissioned by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdul Latif Al Zayani conveyed the condolences and sympathy of His Majesty the King and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the government and the people of Bahrain, to Iran's Vice President for Executive Affairs Mohsen Mansouri and the Interim Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Bakiri on the demise of the President of Iran Dr. Ibrahim Raisi, and Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Hussein Amir Abdulhayin, and those accompanying them following the unfortunate accident of the helicopter crash northwest of Iran. The Minister of Foreign Affairs expressed Bahrain's sympathy in this painful affliction, praying to Allah the Almighty to rest their souls in eternal peace and grant the families and Iranian people solace and fortitude. The Minister of Foreign Affairs was accompanied by Bahrain's Ambassador to Oman, Dr. Juma Al-Kaabi, and the Chief of Legal Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Mohammed Al-Haydan. The Minister of Labour, Jamil Humaidan, headed the delegation of the Kingdom of Bahrain participating in the first ministerial meeting of the regional dialogue between the GCC countries and African labour-sending countries, which is being held in Qatar. In his speech, the Minister reviewed the most prominent initiatives undertaken by Bahrain in the field of enhancing the protection of workers' rights, pointing to the Kingdom's establishment of a comprehensive centre concerned with protecting and supporting the workforce that provides various preventative, guidance and legal services. He noted that Bahrain maintained the first category in the report of the US Department of State to combat trafficking in persons for the 6th year in a row. During the meeting, the participants adopted the Doha Declaration, which emphasised the importance of continuing cooperation between the countries participating in the Doha dialogue and included a set of foundations that contribute to protecting the basic principles and rights of the workforce, in addition to recommending the adoption of technical solutions to develop the management of labour markets. The declaration also encouraged exchanging expertise and transferring successful experiences between member states in the field of regulating workforce mobility. The Kingdom of Bahrain's initiative to develop and enhance Arab cooperation in the field of financial technology and digital transformation during the Arab Summit came to reflect the Kingdom's success in the field of financial technology and demonstrates its keenness to spread this distinguished experience at the Arab level. More in this report.
The Kingdom of Bahrain possesses one of the oldest and best financial services sectors in the region, and it is well aware of the importance of enabling innovation within a strong, flexible, and reliable regulatory system. In an effort to embrace this wave of innovation, in 2017, the Central Bank of Bahrain launched the pioneering experimental regulatory environment framework for financial technology, which allows companies to test their technical solutions for up to a full year under the supervision of relevant authorities. The framework represents the first initiative of its kind in the region and provides financial technology companies with a valuable opportunity to expand and flourish in the Gulf. Since its launch, the experimental regulatory environment has nurtured many innovative financial technology companies. Tarabat Gateway became the first company to successfully complete the regulatory phase, and it is currently cooperating with a wide range of financial institutions in the region in introducing open banking technologies. The initiative also provides small businesses with a safe and partially regulatory-free environment while simultaneously strengthening Bahrain's position as a leading financial services center in the GCC. The Central Bank of Bahrain also established a general framework to facilitate innovations in financial technology and established a Financial Technology and Innovation Unit to ensure the application of the best regulatory oversight for the sector and the optimal implementation of financial services in the Kingdom of Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain has made great strides in the field of investment in financial technology, as Bahrain Financial Technology Bay, Fintech Bay, has become the largest center for financial technology in the Middle East and one of the Kingdom's most important initiatives that focus on investing in innovation, such as advanced laboratories, business accelerators, and educational opportunities. The Economic Development Board has taken serious and important steps to support the financial technology sector in Bahrain by attracting direct foreign investments and determining strategic directions for this sector. The Flat 6 Labs platform is considered one of the most important business accelerators in Bahrain, as it was created in cooperation with Temkeen to support the acceleration and launch of both local and international startups.
The Bahrain Declaration, which was issued during the 33rd Arab Summit, stressed the necessity of unifying efforts and supporting joint Arab action, and stressed its firm and supportive Arab position towards the Palestinian cause, as it is a central issue and the backbone of peace and stability in the region. The General Command of the Bahrain Defence Force announced the opening of volunteering for civilians, males and females, to join the Reserve Force for relatives of employees and retirees in the BDF and the National Guard, military and civilian for the year 2024.
The General Command of the Bahrain Defence Force announced the opening of volunteering for civilians to join the Reserve Force, the relatives of employees and retirees in the BDF and the National Guard for the year 2024. Those wishing to apply for volunteering must register on the BDF's website. The applicant must meet the following conditions: must be a Bahraini national, must not be younger than 18 years old and not over 55 years old. Those excluded from the upper age limit are technicians and specialists or according to duty requirements. Must be of good conduct and not convicted of a felony or misdemeanor involving dishonor or dishonesty. Must be medically fit for military service in the Reserve Force and successfully pass the medical examination prescribed according to the system of military medical committees in the Bahrain Defence Force. Must submit a request to volunteer on the website's form. The Reserve Force Law issued by Decree Law 5 of 1987 and the regulations and instructions issued pursuant thereto regulated all the rights and duties of the Reserve Force as a subsidiary force to the Bahrain Defence Force and also guaranteed the benefits and entitlements resulting from it.
The Minister of Industry and Commerce, Abdullah bin Adel Fakro, affirmed that the historical relations between the Kingdom of Bahrain and the United States are progressing towards more development, prosperity and growth. His statement came during his participation as the keynote speaker at the 7th Annual US Alumni Reception held at the Gulf Hotel. The event, organised under the theme Lifelong Learning by the American Chamber of Commerce in Bahrain in collaboration with the US Embassy in Bahrain, was attended by the US Ambassador to Bahrain, Stephen Bondi, and the President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Bahrain and several officials and stakeholders. The Minister emphasised that cooperation among alumni in the labour market significantly impacts national development, noting that combining experience and expertise enables the creation of a unique blend of skills and perspectives that foster innovation and drive economic growth. Fakro praised the US University alumni for integrating technology, research and innovation into citizens' daily lives, thereby acquiring skills that qualify them to lead Bahrain towards the future.
Today it's a very important event because it covers matters relevant to alumni and students who study in the United States in general. This has become a very important annual event for many young people and graduates, and therefore we have many graduates who are today in different positions, be it in government like ministers, be it in the private sector, and be it educators. So this is the whole idea of bringing people together.
The purpose of today's event is basically to connect with other alumni and see where they are in life, as Fulbright scholars or as graduates of other U.S. Department of State programs. And it's always lovely to see where people, went and what they're doing and, play on the commonalities between all of us as U.S. Department of State graduates.
I'm really excited to be here tonight. We are gathering alumni of American educational and exchange programs here, and the theme of the evening is lifelong learning. The idea behind the event is that we are bringing together some of the top performers in Bahrain, those who have studied in the United States, those who have gone on exchange programs, and these are people who are contributing in enormous ways to Bahrain's own prosperity, growth, peace, security, stability. We in the United States are very proud of the connection that we have to these up-and-coming people who are making a real difference for Bahrain in the future.